All right, welcome to another deep dive. We are diving into a world that honestly kind of freaks some people out, but also people are so fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Witchcraft.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and to really get into it, we're turning to a source that's all about answering questions and getting down to the real nitty-gritty. It's a website called Ask a Grey Witch.
Right.
And we are gonna see what it has to say.
Yeah, and I think what's so cool about this website, Ask a Grey Witch, is that it just goes right into busting those myths about witchcraft.
Yeah.
Right away. Like you said, there's no stereotypical Halloween stuff.
Right.
No broomsticks, no pointy hats. It's really all about working with energy, intention, and connecting to forces that are much bigger than all of us.
That's so interesting because you think of witchcraft as being this old practice, but the website even points out it's always changing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's evolving. One thing I always mess up is the difference between witchcraft and Wicca. And this site, Ask a Grey Witch, goes right into it.
It's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah.
You have Wicca, which is a religion, a path that people follow, and it does use witchcraft often.
Okay.
But not every witch is Wiccan.
Got it.
And it's kind of like, I don't know, all singers use their voice, but not every singer is an opera singer.
Okay, yeah.
So that's a good way to think about it.
So you could be a witch, not Wiccan, but Wiccans probably are using witchcraft.
They're incorporating witchcraft into their practice.
Gotcha. Okay. And the site even mentions some really big names in Wicca.
Oh, yeah.
Gerald Gardner, who, kind of helped to popularize it. And then there's Aleister Crowley.
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, who's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely a complex character.
Yeah.
But, his ideas and his work with Gardner really helps shape Wicca into what it is today in the 20th century. So it's taking those ancient pagan roots, but, bringing in more of a modern interpretation.
Yeah, it's so interesting how these kind of new spiritual frameworks pop up,
Right.
Now, speaking of frameworks, Ask a Grey Witch goes into some different Wiccan traditions too. There's Gardnerian, CX, Alexandrian,
right.
Each one has its own kind of flavor.
Its own little twist.
Yeah, but they don't go super deep into it. It's more
right, it's just, here's a little taste.
Yeah, a little,
look to it first.
Teaser, if you're interested. Okay, now, something that comes up a lot, obviously, with witchcraft is energy.
Yes.
And this site describes it in a really interesting way.
Oh, yeah.
It says that you can feel energy,
right,
but by how it affects your energy.
Exactly, yeah. It's not like you're reaching out and grabbing energy from something. It's more like, imagine you're trying to hear a whisper in a really loud room. It's hard to make that out, right? So you kind of have to quiet down all the noise around you to really pick up on that subtle whisper.
Yeah.
And it's very much the same with energy. You really have to get in tune with your own energy in order to perceive these subtle shifts.
So I like how they use this orchestra analogy. It's your own inner orchestra.
An inner orchestra, and you're really trying to focus on a single soloist within that orchestra.
Yeah, okay. And then once you can do that, then you can feel how other outside energy affecting you.
Exactly.
Okay. So moon water is charged, by the moon's energy.
The moon.
And then there's runes, tarot cards.
Yeah.
These are all believed to hold specific energies.
Exactly, yeah. All these different objects carry a certain energy to them.
Okay.
And you really could learn to work with those energies intentionally.
But it's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Right.
Ask a Grey Witch is very clear about this, that it's all about
personal association.
Personal association.
Yeah.
So what you think of something
right.
influences how strong it is for you.
Exactly. One person might see a rose and think of love.
Yeah.
While another person might see a rose and think of a painful memory they have.
Yeah.
And that will change how that object interacts with your energy field.
It's almost like that placebo effect we hear about.
It's very similar.
Where your beliefs about something.
Your expectations can really influence things.
Can influence how your body reacts.
Right.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, so we've talked about energy and intention, and now let's get into the magic itself. Are you ready?
Yes, the workings.
The workings.
The magical workings.
Okay.
So this is where the website gets kind of bold. They say that everyone has the potential to work with energy and perform magic.
Okay.
And notice how they spell magic with a K.
Oh, with a K.
To distinguish it from stage magic.
Oh. So I can't just like pull a rabbit out of a hat?
Well, that's stage magic.
Okay.
Yeah, this is true magic.
Okay.
Yeah. And Crowley, he believed that this true magic was about causing change in accordance with your will.
Got it. So it's not about like breaking the laws of the universe.
Not defying natural laws.
Yeah, but more about like working with them.
Understanding and working with them.
Yeah, to get what you want. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like setting a really powerful goal for yourself.
There's a parallel there.
And believing it's going to happen.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
And they go on to talk about different types of magic. So you have folk magic, which is kind of like using everyday objects, things that have been passed down through traditions. And then you have ceremonial magic, which is more spiritual, ritualistic, using these complex systems of symbols.
So it's like folk magic would be like your grandma's home remedies.
A good way to think about it.
And ceremonial would be like really elaborate spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, there's so many different kinds of witchcraft practices.
Oh, so many.
Like there's, green witches that work with plants. There's hedge witches that can like walk between realms, supposedly.
All different kinds.
There's like a whole tapestry.
Yeah.
It seems like you could almost like design your own witchcraft practice.
Yeah, with all these different paths.
Yeah. And speaking of making things your own, the site goes into this idea of manifestation.
Right.
And they ask this really fun question.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember your first spell?
That was a good one.
Like, I realize we've all kind of dabbled in magic.
We have on a small scale, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And they explain, like, how spell work kind of harnesses that intention that we all have.
That intention.
And uses these symbols and actions to, like, boost it.
To amplify it.
And make change happen.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's like if you think of the magnifying glass, focusing the sun's rays, the sunlight's already there, but that lens really helps concentrate it into a really powerful beam.
Right.
And that's kind of what spell work is all about.
Yeah.
It's focusing your will in a similar way.
And just like you need a clear sky for that sunlight to work, the site says that you need like belief and confidence for spells to work.
Yes. If you doubt it, it's less likely to work.
It's like you got to align everything. Your thoughts, your feelings, your actions.
You got to be all in.
Yeah.
You got to be all in.
With what you want.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there's this thing called the law of three. Okay. And it basically says that whatever energy you put out there, good or bad, comes back to you 3 times stronger.
Yeah, it's like a boomerang.
It's like karma, but like amplified.
Yeah, what goes around comes around.
So you got to be careful.
Right, you got to be mindful.
When you're putting out there.
Of your intention.
Yeah.
And it's also connected to the Wiccan Rede.
Yeah.
That ethical guideline of it harm none, do what you will.
It's like you have all this power.
Use it responsibly.
But don't be a jerk.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of different kinds of practitioners, the site makes it clear there is no one right way to be a witch.
There isn't. No one right way.
No. You got your green witches, you got folk practitioners, Wiccans, all different.
Each with their own unique approach.
And they even mentioned this thing called chaos magic,
yes,
which is all about like change and going with the flow.
Embracing the fluidity.
Yeah. It's so interesting how witchcraft is like this living, breathing.
Yeah.
It's static.
Yeah, it's constant.
Adapting, evolving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I really like about Ask a Grey Witch is they really empower people. They're like, find what works for you.
Trust your gut.
Yeah, trust your gut. Yeah. Find that practice that feels right.
So we've covered so much.
Yeah. Defining
witchcraft, Wicca, energy, how it all works, manifestation. But this is really just the beginning.
Oh, we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more.
There's so much more to uncover. So join us in the next part of this deep dive as we get into something kind of different.
A little deeper.
Yeah. Shadow work.
Shadow work, yeah.
It sounds kind of scary, but it's really about
self-discovery.
Self-discovery, yeah.
Yeah.
So see you then.
See ya. So shadow work. I know it sounds kind of
intense.
Yeah, a little scary.
Yeah.
But the way Ask a Grey Witch describes it, it's really like a journey of self-discovery.
Okay.
It's not something to be afraid of.
It's like you're facing those parts of yourself you usually try to like keep hidden.
Exactly.
Stuff that we don't like to admit to ourselves. Like, I'm a little nervous, but also kind of curious.
That's a very normal reaction. You know, we tend to like shy away from those aspects of ourselves that we consider to be like negative or bad or things we just don't like.
Yeah.
But shadow work is really about embracing like the full spectrum, the good and the bad, the light and the shadow.
So instead of like pushing those feelings down, we
Right.
should like be confronting them.
Yeah, it's about acknowledging those parts.
Okay, but what's the point of that?
Well, the website suggests that by acknowledging these shadows, like your fears, insecurities, traumas from the past, you actually gain a deeper understanding of yourself and why you do the things you do.
Okay.
It's kind of like cleaning out a really cluttered closet. You might find some skeletons in there, but once it's all out in the open, there's more space to breathe.
Yeah, I get that, the analogy, but like, how do you actually DO shadow work?
Yeah.
It sounds really
But
hard.
Ask a Grey Witch recommends journaling. They call it your book of mirrors.
Okay.
So it's a place where you can reflect on your thoughts and emotions and experiences without judgment.
So it's less about judging those shadowy parts
But judgment.
and more about like figuring out.
Yeah, where they came from.
Yeah. And they actually give some examples of shadow work exercises.
Okay.
Like you can make a bucket list,
Okay.
which can reveal your hidden desires.
All right.
Or you could list things you dislike about yourself,
Oh, okay.
which can kind of highlight areas where you might need to work on self-acceptance. It's really all about recognizing these patterns and beliefs that might be holding you back.
It's kind of like therapy in a way.
It is, in a way.
Like I guess,
It can be very therapeutic.
yeah, that's not a bad thing.
Not at all.
No, it seems like there's a connection, too, between shadow work and this magical practice.
There is. The idea is that by understanding yourself and all those parts, even the ones you don't like,
Right.
you're able to approach witchcraft with more intention, more authenticity.
Okay.
It's almost like those shadows, when you kind of integrate them, they become like
The strength.
a source of power.
Okay. So we've gone pretty deep with the shadow work. Let's get a little bit more.
Yeah, practical.
Okay.
Ask a Grey Witch also goes into rituals and spell work.
Right. Well, they actually define rituals as actions that are performed in a specific order. And they actually point out that a lot of everyday things we do have these ritualistic elements to them.
Like what?
Well, think about your morning routine.
Oh, okay.
You have your coffee, you take a shower, you get dressed.
Right.
It's all these series of actions
Yeah.
that kind of create a structure
Right.
and set the tone for the day.
So I guess rituals are about intentionality,
Yes, exactly.
whether it's for like everyday stuff or like a magical working.
That's it.
Okay.
And they give a really cool example.
What's that?
So they talk about a self-love bath.
Okay.
And when you add a magical intention to it, it goes from just like getting clean
Right.
to like a ritual for
Self-care.
self-care. Yeah.
I like that. It's taking something ordinary
Right.
and making it magical.
Exactly.
So how does that lead into like spell work?
Well, rituals are often part of spell work because they help you like ground yourself
Yeah.
and really focus that intention. It's kind of like setting the stage for a performance.
Yeah.
The ritual creates that container, that sacred space
Gotcha.
where the magic happens.
Okay. And that's where incantations come in.
Yes.
Those spoken words.
Yeah.
That like rhyme and sound really.
Poetic.
Yeah. Poetic.
Exactly. So they're used to raise energy, make that intention stronger, like weaving words and your will together to create a magical force.
So it's almost like even in magic, there's this psychology to it.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rhyming, it helps with memory.
Oh,
It
right.
creates a rhythm.
Okay.
Yeah, and Ask a Grey Witch also points out that like the ingredients and
Yeah.
actions and spell work, they're all symbolic.
Okay.
They represent what you want to achieve.
So it's not just about following a recipe, but actually like knowing what everything means. Exactly.
So like if you're doing a spell for abundance,
Right.
you might use things that symbolize growth,
Yeah.
like cinnamon or basil,
Things like that.
or do things that represent like increase.
Right. Like scattering seeds or lighting a green candle.
So you're like making a physical
Yeah. so
representation.
a visual representation.
Unless you want.
Exactly.
Okay.
Engaging all the senses.
Yeah.
Focusing that energy.
It's pretty cool how they explain it. Now, Ask a Grey Witch also gives tons of advice
Lots of it.
for people that are like just starting out
Yeah. They
with witchcraft. They
Yeah.
tell people to, research, explore.
Do your homework.
Yeah, because there's just like
Tons of information
so much information.
out there.
Yeah. But they also say it's really important to trust your gut
Yes.
and find what feels right to you.
Yeah. There's no one right path.
Right.
So really trust your inner compass and just keep exploring until you find what works. What I thought was interesting too is they suggest journaling,
Oh, yeah.
like to document
Your
things.
journey, keeping track of things.
Yeah. Like maybe keep a book of shadows to track your rituals and spells, or a book of mirrors for shadow work, or even a book of spells like a grimoire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For your magical workings.
And they even talk about like how to avoid burnout.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is a big deal
Yeah.
in anything you do,
It's important.
especially if it involves like working with energy.
Yes. Very important.
They say that it's good to like tap into other sources of energy.
Yeah. Don't just rely on yourself.
Yes.
You know, there's energies of the natural world.
Right, like don't drain yourself.
Exactly. Find that balance.
And another thing they stress a lot is like confidence and feeling empowered,
Oh, yeah.
especially when it comes to protection spells.
Right. You got to feel that inner strength, that security, knowing that you can shield yourself from negativity and harm.
Yeah. Now, here's something I was really happy to see.
Oh, yeah.
They basically dispel that myth that you need all these fancy tools and expensive ingredients to, like, be a witch.
You don't need all the fancy stuff.
No. They're like, nature has everything you need.
Yeah. Nature provides.
Free.
Yeah. Sticks, stones, herbs.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's all there.
However, while tools aren't, like, absolutely necessary, they do say they can be helpful.
Yeah, they can be.
So start with like those natural things you find.
Right.
But if you feel drawn to it and you can afford it, you can buy tools too.
Exactly.
And they do say though, no matter what, you gotta cleanse and charge any new tool.
Whether you found it or you bought it.
It's about getting rid of any like lingering energies and putting your own energy into it.
Exactly. Making that connection.
So we've covered shadow work, rituals, spell work, tools, how to not get burnt out.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Ask a Grey Witch is really big on like the practical side of witchcraft.
Yeah, they are. But, you know, they also get into the social aspect of it too.
Oh, right. Like covens.
Yes, covens.
What do they say about covens?
So they spend a good chunk of the website explaining what covens are.
Okay.
So they're basically gatherings of witches who come together, you know, for rituals, ceremonies, to learn from each other, support each other. And they talk about the covenstead, like the place where they meet.
Okay.
Even talk about like the ideal number of members.
Oh, really? What is it?
Well, 13 is a significant number in some traditions.
So it's not just about like practicing witchcraft alone.
No, it's about community.
Right. You can connect with people that have similar interests.
Yeah, people who get it.
Kind of like a book club, but for witches.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, cool.
And they even explain this idea of hiving.
What's that?
So as a coven grows bigger, it might split to form new groups.
Oh.
So each group stays at a manageable size.
Gotcha.
Keeps those good dynamics.
It's like a natural growth.
Yeah, it is.
So how are these groups usually structured?
Well, they point out that not all covens are like super strict Wiccan structures.
Okay.
Where you have like a high priestess and a high priest leading the group.
Right.
Some might have different leadership styles, or they might even rotate who's in charge.
That makes sense. It seems like there's a lot of variety.
Oh, yeah.
In the coven world.
Just like with witchcraft itself.
Yeah.
And that's a point that Ask a Grey Witch makes very clear.
Okay.
You know, it's about finding a group whose values and practices really line up with your own.
So you don't just join any coven.
No.
You got to find the right fit.
You got to find the right fit.
Kind of like dating for covens.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to make sure
you're compatible.
Yeah, you're compatible.
Well, before you commit.
Before you commit, yeah.
And they also say that, you know, joining a coven isn't for everyone. You can totally practice witchcraft on your own.
Okay.
And you can still connect with other witches online or at local events.
So it really comes down to like what you want.
Personal preference.
Yeah. Now I'm curious about like the magic itself. Does Ask a Grey Witch actually say what magic is?
They do. They address it right away. And they dispel that common misconception that magic is like supernatural or otherworldly.
Oh, okay.
You know, they emphasize that magic is about harnessing the power of intention to create change in the world.
So it's less about like breaking the laws of physics.
Not about breaking laws.
And more about working with these like subtle energies that are already there.
It's about working with what's already there.
Okay.
You know, and they even suggest that A lot of people already practice magic
Oh, really?
without realizing it.
Like how?
Well, think about those everyday things you do, like making a wish on a dandelion or a birthday candle.
Yeah.
Those are basic forms of magic.
It's like believing that your thoughts
And desires,
have power.
they have power.
Oh.
Yeah. And witchcraft takes those natural human tendencies,
Right.
and it kind of amps them up.
Okay.
Uses tools, rituals, spells
Okay.
to focus those intentions and make them more precise.
It's like taking that wishing ability
Yeah.
that humans have.
We all have it.
Yeah, and being like, let's boost it.
Yeah, giving it that boost.
Okay. And they say that, like, belief.
Belief is crucial
Really important.
for magic
Yeah.
to work.
Yeah.
If you don't believe it,
Right.
it's not going to happen.
It's like you got to align
You got to be all in.
everything, right?
Yeah, all
Your
in.
thoughts, your emotions.
Align it all.
Yeah. And then
Creates that synergy,
Yeah.
allows the magic to flow.
Now, they also introduce this idea called the law of three.
Okay?
And it says that whatever energy you put out there, good or bad,
Yeah.
it comes back to you
It's threefold.
3 times stronger.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic boomerang.
It is like a boomerang.
What goes around comes around,
Yeah.
but amplified.
So you got to be careful what you're putting out there.
Got to be mindful,
Yeah.
you know? And they connect this to the Wiccan Rede,
Yeah.
that ethical guideline of,
Uh-huh.
and it harm none, do what you will.
Right. It's like you have this power,
Right.
but use it wisely.
Use it ethically.
Yeah. So we've covered covens, what magic is, and like ethical considerations. It's a lot.
It is.
And there's still more.
More to come.
Mm-hmm.
In our next segment, we're going to bring it all together.
Okay.
And see how Ask a Grey Witch
Yeah.
encourages us to make witchcraft our own.
All right, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into Ask a Grey Witch. And, you know, we've talked about a lot, practical stuff, ethical stuff. But one thing that really stands out is how much this site stresses making witchcraft your own.
It really does. Like
Yeah.
throughout the whole website, they
Yeah.
emphasize that, like, there's no one right way to be a witch.
Yep.
You know, instead of like strict rules,
Yeah.
they're like, adapt the practices
Yeah.
to fit you, your beliefs, your experiences.
I remember one part where they even say, feel free to change anything, the ritual, ingredients, words, anything. So it really like clicks with what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's really about making it your own. It's so freeing.
Yeah, it is.
You know, you think about it, it's like how different cultures have their own like magical traditions.
Yeah.
You know, all this variety.
Folk magic.
Yeah, folk magic all over the world.
Yeah.
And Ask a Grey Witch really embraces that.
So it's less about like following a rule book
Yeah.
and more about like finding what works.
It is. Like they even talk about that difference between folk magic and ceremonial magic.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
folk magic is so practical, it's for everyday stuff.
Yeah.
It feels very personal.
Right. It's like you just use what's around.
Use what you have
Yeah.
to get something done. Like if you need protection, you make a little charm with a stone you
Yeah.
found on a walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, ceremonial magic,
Right.
with all the symbols and stuff, that might seem more like strict.
It can't
But even then,
Yeah, well,
Ask a Grey Witch is like, bring your own understanding to it.
bring your own experience.
Yeah. So whether you're like into the simple stuff
Yeah.
or the really elaborate, like fancy magic.
It's all about making it yours.
Yeah.
It's about that personal touch
It's that personal touch.
that makes the magic strong.
Okay. And that actually brings us back to shadow work.
It does.
Because like by facing those hidden parts of ourselves,
Yeah.
we learn more about who we really are.
Right, and that helps us with our magic.
So we know what tools to use, what symbols speak to us, what rituals feel right.
It all connects.
Okay.
Yeah.
So witchcraft isn't just about like changing the world out there. It's about understanding your own like inner energy.
That inner world.
Yeah.
It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is like, you know, diving into magic.
That's what makes it so interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into Ask a Grey Witch, any final thoughts for our listeners?
You know, we've talked about like intentions, tools, rituals, spells, even the whole like social side of witchcraft.
Yeah.
But I think the big takeaway from Ask a Grey Witch is don't just read about it.
Yeah.
Go experience it.
Yeah.
Like feel that energy, question what you think you know, see what sparks your own, you know, inner magic.
I love that. It's an invitation to explore,
Yeah.
experiment,
Yeah.
find what speaks to you.
Yeah.
you know? And who knows, maybe the strongest spells are the ones we like cast on ourselves
Oh, that's good.
to change, not just the world around us, but who we are.
Who we are deep down.
Deep down inside. That's a great thought to end on.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into witchcraft.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the magic alive.
Yeah.